There's a story that the longest thing ever built by human hands is also the longest grave ever dug. The story goes that the Great Wall of China isn't just guarded by the dead, it's built out of them. Bodies packed into the brickwork, bones ground into the mortar, thousands of miles of workers who died on the job and got sealed inside the very thing that killed them. A wall of the dead holding back the living. And yeah, this is the original wall, not the beautiful stone dragon you're thinking of with the towers and the walkway on top. That version came 1500 years later. This right here is what it actually looked like in 220 BC. A very long, very ugly wall of dirt. Basically, a mud fence. That's the thing 300,000 men were dying to build. So it's one of the most repeated horror stories in all of human history. Everybody's heard some version of it, so I did the only responsible thing. I set the machine for the Qin frontier, around 220 BC, to walk the thing myself and find out if it's true. After I noticed this isn't the wall from the postcards, I saw them. Everywhere I look, there are people. Cold, exhausted, frightened people moving dirt and stone by hand. So let's answer the question everyone actually wants answered. Are the dead in the wall? And to get there, first I have to show you why so many people were so sure they were. The myth didn't come out of nowhere. It grew out of a real and genuinely crushing mountain of death. The first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, the same man who unified China and got buried with the Terracotta Army, wanted the northern nomad raiders kept out for good. So he ordered walls thrown up across the entire top of his brand new empire. And according to the great historian Sima Qian, 300,000 soldiers were hurled at the project, and that was just the soldiers. And hey, this construction was not the only one. The emperor ordering this wall was at the same exact time building himself an underground kingdom, his own tomb, a city under the ground, guarded by an army of 8,000 clay soldiers, with rivers of liquid mercury flowing through it and a ceiling painted with the stars. The same year Qin Shi Huang was throwing 300,000 men at a wall to keep his enemies out, he was sealing himself inside a mountain to keep death out. The man was terrified of losing anything, and the wall was not just a defensive project, it was one more thing he refused to lose. But the soldiers were just the start, and this is where it turns dark. This was forced labor on a scale that's genuinely hard to picture. Peasants ripped away from their farms and marched hundreds of miles north. Convicts, prisoners of war, and the Qin legal system was so cruel that it had a rule that sounds invented, except it wasn't. If a convict laborer died before his sentence was finished, a member of his family had to travel to the wall and take his place. Read that again. Death didn't cancel your debt to the emperor, it just transferred the debt to your son. People died at the wall by the thousands. Cold, starvation, exhaustion, crushing accidents, falling rock, disease tearing through crowded, filthy work camps. There's a poem from the Han-dynasty written not long after, with a line that has haunted China for 2,000 years. Beside the long wall, dead men's skeletons prop each other up. So the horror underneath the myth is completely real. Countless human beings died building this thing. The only actual question left is a narrow one. Did their bodies go into the wall itself? The whole bodies in the wall idea crystallizes into one specific story. One of the oldest and saddest stories China has ever told, the Legend of Meng Jiangnü. A young woman's husband is dragged away from their home to build the wall. Winter comes on hard. She sews warm clothes for him with her own hands and travels a brutal, punishing distance across the country to bring them to him. And when she finally reaches the wall, half frozen, clothes in her arms, they tell her he's dead, worked to death months ago, and his body was sealed inside the construction, somewhere in the endless miles of it. So she sits down at the base of the wall and she weeps. And in the legend, she weeps so hard and so long and with such total grief that the wall itself cracks open and collapses, spilling out his bones so that she can finally give him a proper burial. Okay, but let's not cry today. That story is around 2,000 years old and people have been telling it for 20 centuries because it was literally, factually true. They kept telling it because it carried a truth too big and too heavy to say out loud any other way. That the wall ate their husbands, their sons, their fathers, and gave almost nothing back. So here's the part where I have to disappoint the horror fans. Archaeologists have surveyed and excavated the wall for decades, across different dynasties, across different sections, across thousands of miles. And the number of human bodies found, as far as all that evidence goes, basically zero. No skeletons in the core, no bones in the mortar. It's not there. And the moment you think about it like a builder for even 1 second, it becomes obvious why. A wall has exactly one job: stay standing forever. And a human body rots. If you pack thousands of corpses into the guts of your wall, then a few years later they decompose, they break down, they hollow out into empty pockets of air, and your wall, the single most important defensive structure your entire empire is betting its survival on, starts sagging and collapsing from the inside out. No engineer, not even the most brutal, indifferent engineer in history, deliberately builds a critical fortress out of a material he knows is going to turn to mush and rot. It's not mercy that kept the bodies out, it's just physics. So where did all those dead people actually go? Into mass graves, right beside the wall, unmarked ground alongside the construction, sometimes returned to families when that was even remotely possible, most of the time not, which earned the Great Wall a nickname that is the longest cemetery on Earth. The bodies aren't inside the wall, they're all around it, underneath it, beside it, for thousands of unbroken miles, an entire nation's worth of unmarked graves running the whole length of the thing. So yeah, the bones in the mortar version is a myth. That part's not true. But just think about it. The emperor ordered this huge wall thousands of years ago, back when Mongol horse tribes from the north were sneaking in and massacring cities. A construction by a massive amount of death, and every single rock in it was carried into place by someone who just wanted to go home. Most of them never did. So next time you see the wall in a photo, winding, gorgeous across the mountains, remember what you're really looking at. The longest graveyard human beings have ever built. Almost none of them got a stone with their name on it. This one's for them.